All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. Yeah, I'll let people trickle in as they want. But yeah, nice for everyone to be here. Thank you for attending. Um, Admittedly, this is a little bit less of a how-to, but more probably like a reflection on our journey in terms of unbundling the protocol with us as the founding team. My name is Eric. I'm a PM at 0x, focused on both governance and RFQ. Yeah, so here to just kind of walk you through what we've done, some reflections, things we try to emphasize, and hopefully everyone can walk away with a little bit more of like, for their own protocols, do they want to unbundle? When is the right time to do it? How should they do it? What is an end goal that seems reasonable? So kind of recapping there, the main questions that hopefully we can talk a little bit about today is, what does it mean to unbundle? I think there's a wide range. Decentralization can kind of vary quite a bit. So figuring out what that means for you and your project is important. Second question, when to unbundle? What is a good time? I think it takes a lot to decentralize. Governance is kind of a messy process. So figuring out when that is and when it's appropriate is pretty key as well. And the last question, just like why even unbundle, right? Like what is the purpose of it? And making sure that there's a good reason for that. So yeah, just kind of to tackle those three questions, just looking at 0x protocol as a case study here. To set the stage for people who are not aware, 0x protocol facilitates the decentralized settlement for the exchange of tokenized values. As a mental model, you can think of it as just like a system of smart contracts that serves as a pipe. From one end, user puts in the token that they want to sell, and on the other end, they get the tokens that they wanted to buy. It's designed to be super flexible, very unopinionated about what the form of that tokenized value is and how it gets there and what are the transformations to do that. We are on V4 now, so a lot has changed. It's gotten a little bit more opinionated since, but that was its founding thesis and what it was used for. And to date, it's transferred almost $200 billion in value, settled almost 60 million transactions, and has over 6.7 unique users using the protocol. And so 0x protocol, the technology, is really meant to be a community-guided, open source, and free-to-use infrastructure for Web3. I feel like a lot of people and a lot of projects say that, and we say it as well, and we truly mean it. But taking a snapshot just earlier this year, this was, I think, our website, 0x.org, back in April, it still very much had a tie to between 0x protocol and 0x company. If you look at this website, right, you have at the top in the banner, the second one, ZRX, the governance token, which would lead you to the governance portal for community members, how to see proposals, vote on them, and whatnot. But as part of the main page, you see 0x API, which is our proprietary product that we've built on top of it. And so this kind of leads to like, okay, who owns the protocol, who's building it, what's going on there? And so kind of some like, to really capture like why is it important from our perspective. Hello? Okay, cool. I just kind of cherry picking this quote from Will. Really early on, maybe this was in like 20. Cool. He has this quote and this vision that this pipeline of smart contracts could facilitate trillions of dollars in the future. And so this upgrade process needs to be super secure and can't be censorable from government intermediation. In his words, governance over upgrades must be decentralized. Is the key of why to unbundle. So hopefully that sets the stage a little bit. And in terms of how we decided to do this, we decided to go with the gradual decentralization. For us, there's a lot of steps to it. We can't kind of go from 0 to 100. And there's a lot of things we can do in the meantime to prepare the people to take more ownership over the protocol. So just taking some snapshots of kind of key milestones, in my opinions, and also cherry picking some of the quotes or most salient points in the announcements of those. White paper launched in February 2017. 0x protocol is not a decentralized exchange, it's a protocol for exchange. Again, the call to action is for other people to really coalesce around this, to build on top of these protocols for interoperability. A second big roadmap was sharing with everyone what our governance roadmap was. So really, this is already back in 2018, but had the vision to really make sure that the upgrade process for protocol should be coordinated by stakeholders rather than having any central party. Another milestone was launching ZEIP, very much inspired by the EIP process itself. But just kind of letting the community know, like, hey, we want to adopt some standards for everyone to kind of coalesce around in order to discuss what are meaningful upgrades for the protocol. In June 2020, oh, sorry, that should be 2020, 0x Labs was founded, and this was where we decided to really announce, like, hey, we're going to continue to decentralize. As a company, are going to really start to transition into one of many stakeholders and not continue to be the only developing team behind it. A couple other key milestones. We launched a protocol treasury in February 2021, and the idea was really to empower stakeholders, funds, and to be able to do that without relying on the 0x team. Earlier this year, we officially kind of talked about the unbundling and really trying to separate these two identities, 0x Protocol and 0x the company, and really continue to provide the community with these tools to form and make decisions independently. In May 2023, we put out a ZIP ourselves to push for on-chain governance, to really transition the future of the protocol into the hands of the community. And later that month as well, we continue to revamp community rules because governance is really all about the people. There's no one there, there's no governance, so you really need to focus on that part. So those are kind of the key kind of milestones that we've hit so far in our decentralized roadmap. There's still a lot to achieve, but we think it's been a meaningful steps. And just some reflections on what that's been like for us. I think for me, a protocol is really two parts, and both are equally important. It's the technology behind it, it's the smart contracts themselves that have been deployed, but it's also the community of token holders, of people who are in the Discord, who follow on Twitter, who vote. They are just as important. Again, without the people, there's no one to govern, and the protocol might as well kind of just, it's not a great space to be in. In terms of things that we really wanted to emphasize when we were talking about our decentralized roadmap, the first thing we always wanted to emphasize was safety. There's nothing to govern. And so for us, safety is always the first and topmost priority. And enough that there's a trade-off between safety and full decentralization, we tend to lean a little bit more towards safety. From a technology standpoint, what that's meant in terms of just like the governance contracts, just making sure we're OZ compatible, leveraging what everyone else has developed, having very open source development practices. The GitHub PR was open since day one and very publicly, shared it with people so that they could know what was going on, our design decisions and whatnot, and obviously making sure it's thoroughly audited, as I'm sure everyone does. And then from the community perspective, we launched the idea of a 0x Protocol Security Council. I don't think it's really super groundbreaking in many ways. The idea is that there's some group that holds a kill switch or a pause switch to really make sure that, hey, if things really go wrong, that there's some way to minimize the damage that can be done. What I think is really cool here, introduce the Security Council, is that it can only take actions that pause the protocol, but can't change anything proactively. So it's a pure reactive position. They're removed from that position, and a new Security Council needs to be elected. All of this is really to kind of minimize what a bad actor can do in these positions of power. And lastly, we refreshed our delegates because, again, governance is all about people, and we want more ideas, more diversity, and so that was super important for us. Another thing that we wanted to emphasize was just around communication. I think In this async world, communication is hard, but we need to do it frequently and to be as early as possible. And I think one of the lessons I've learned personally is just, how to be extra careful with words. When things are published online and read by other people, it's hard to kind of read the nuances, make sure that people read it the way I intended it to be read. So just to note out, make sure you're thinking about what your forum posts or Discord messages or look like. And so from a technology standpoint, I think it's pretty standard, just having all these different venues for people to interact with the protocol. And then from the community side, really trying to elevate early community members, those who are express a lot of interest and put in a lot of work for the community, and giving them positions to be able to lead experiments, let them kind of take the reins, champion them. I think, as a founding team, it's often easy to kind of see the protocol as, your baby and, be afraid of giving up some of that control and some of that power. But if we want to decentralize the governance, we have to do that. Otherwise, no one's going to step up. And so, just giving people elevated roles within platforms and letting them take the space. So what does the future of 0x protocol governance look like? What does unbundling mean for us? Put up this graphic in one of our forum posts about what is that end state. And to us, it really is that there is a huge, hopefully a bigger ecosystem of contributors. In the middle, you see there is 0x. We have our products, the API and Matcha, but hopefully we have a slew of other companies who have built on top of 0x protocol itself, have ecosystem partners like Optimism or Polygon or Cello to kind of co-contribute funds to get more developer interest in it and just continue to build it. But again, the idea is for us is that 0x is just one of many stakeholders, going from the main one to just one amongst the broader community. So here's my call to action for people here today or watching the recording. If you're interested, please do join the community on any of the forums. Just get familiar with who we are, what the community is trying to do, and again, this is meant to be a protocol for exchange. And so if you need some exchange, this is a protocol that hopefully people can coalesce around to use. And so I think that's kind of the main things. Just to recap, what are those kind of broad 3 questions that I started off with that I think are important? What does it mean to unbundle to you and your project? When is the right time to unbundle? And why unbundle? I realize I probably didn't save myself enough time to actually reflect on these, but I'll leave this as an exercise for the reader then. That is all I have, and thanks for coming to the talk. Those are how you can reach me. I think that's email and Twitter/Discord. So thanks.
Were there any legal considerations that you had to make in terms of like your community, in a sense, taking over ownership, or other people taking up these ownership type of pieces in place for like an official kind of like foundation that you're unbundling from?
Yeah, I think in terms of like that legal consideration, I think to me it comes back all the way, sorry for the whole whiplash there, back to this quote from Will, right? The idea is really to make sure that the protocol as a technology itself can't be censorable. And so if control over upgrades really lies within one company, then it's very easy for it to be stopped. And so I think from our perspective, that is really like the legal consideration was for embarking on this really long journey to decentralized governance. I think it's TBD of what regulation decides is okay and not okay. Obviously, we see like the UkiDAO case in terms of like, what are the liabilities for governance participants and token holders? But this really, I think, encapsulates like why we feel like this is important to do. And in light of like, no real clarity from the legal perspective, I think we're just taking the best steps that we think are possible. But I'll also direct you, if I may, to Ashley over there, who's our head of legal. So if you have more legal questions, he would have the actual answers.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.